This actually might be the easiest archetype rematch I'm tasked with doing, because a lot of the new cards that we have here on display can be described in a couple of words, and I don't need to write entire essays about them. Most of them anyway. So yeah, we have a very interesting lineup of support. Thankfully no Blue Eyes support has come to plague yet another one of these videos. Let's hope it stays that way. So anyway, the first batch of support is directed to Gravekeepers. More specifically, someone who really fangasmed over Ishizu, because she's everyone's favorite. Well, anyway, a fine batch of the new Gravekeeper support is mostly dedicated to retraining 4 of Ishizu's monsters that she used in the show, as well as a card that used to be very broken and now is just not used, and as well another card that was used by Ishizu, which is not that good at all. Those monsters being Keldo, Agido, Mudora, and KELBEK. So yeah, all of these received new support. By that I mean retrains in form of Keldo, the Possessed Statue, Agido, the Ancient Sentry, Mudora, the Cestus Oracle, and KELBEK, the Ancient Vanguard. To put it simply, most of these, I think all of these have very simple and to-the-point special summoning conditions, as well as effects that interact with yet another card that was also pulled into the Gravekeeper archetype because of this. So essentially, if you plan on making a swarm-centric Gravekeeper build, you can't go wrong with the 4 of these, but otherwise I would run by preference if you're focusing more on the control aspect of Gravekeepers. And that would be all of the monsters. Yep, we are done with monsters already, and we move on to their only spell card that they received, which is Gravekeeper's Engraving, which is essentially the archetypal Ghost Bell without the benefit of it being a quick play effect and a hand trap. So it's still worth running because it's actually searchable by their support, but not as much as Ghost Bell, which has the benefit of being a hand trap. So yeah. Then we have Blast Held by Attribute, a generic card that was made part of this archetype because of the new support. And this is probably the most Monarch anti-support card I have ever seen in my life, so do yourself a favor and ignore it. The card it's retrain, and the reason why it's in this archetype at all is Blast Held by Fate, which is again a very gimmicky card made specifically for it being an anime reference and nothing more. They really need to make these anime reference cards a lot better if they expect people to actually fangasm over them. So yeah, moving along, we have Exchange of the Spirit, a very broken card, or at least it used to be before it got an errata. It spent a very long time on the ban list because of its effect to essentially destroy the opponent's deck in one swift move. So yeah, nobody runs this anymore, nor its retrain Exchange of the Heart, which is, I would imagine, even worse because, well, it's more of a setup tool than a straight additional utility for Exchange of the Spirits. So yeah, I would say not worth it. And the final card of the Gravekeepers is the Gravekeeper's Trap, which simply serves to juggle with these new Exchange of the Spirit support more easily. If you're planning on building a deck around this strategy in the first place, because this is such a win more strategy that I do not see it being worth pulling off. So yeah, run this if you really feel like it, or if you're fangasming over Ishizu like someone who made this new batch of support is. So he probably played TAC Force Special or something, or went to Rule 34, whatever works for him. Anyway, the next 2 support cards are the Poker Knight support cards, and the first card we have is the level 6 monster Royal Straight Slasher, which had okay-ish summoning condition in the anime. Well, the anime one was a bit more specific, but this one is a bit more generic. However, its effect to nuke everything on the field, which is a good effect, mind you, has such a harsh and specific cost to it that I honestly never expect to see it pulled off, because running monsters with levels between 1 and 5, one of each, is something that's never ever going to happen. And not to mention that the anime version was actually worse, because it was monsters with levels between 1 and 10. So, hoo boy, it was not good. However, the other support card, Royal Straight, is more of a generic card, because in the anime this was used to specifically summon Royal Straight Slasher. So yeah, he was a Nomi monster just like in the real game, but thankfully here it's used to summon any monster that mentions Queen's Knight, King's Knight and Jack's Knight, so it's a little bit better. It's a quick play as well, so this one is bound to see some more mileage than Royal Straight Slasher. So yeah, I guess this one's a lot better than Royal Straight Slasher anyway. And next up we have a single solitary support card for the Heroic Champion, Heroic Challenger lineup, which is Heroic Call. An archetypal monster reborn, fetches top from the hand. It can summon any warrior monster, which is actually fantastic. And there's literally no reason why you shouldn't run 3 of these at all times. And next up we have 3 more support cards for the Star archetype. We have Todoroki, the Earthbolt Star, and also Senko, the Skybolt Star, which are standard main deck Star monsters, although it is worth noting that Senko is a level 7 monster, so that might make him a bit of a more hassle to deal with in terms of getting him on the field. But if you actually manage to pull his effect off, it's actually a pretty significant detriment to the opponent's monster's attack value. So run by preference, it's also a target for Sacred Sword of the 7 Stars if you're feeling quite random. Anyway, and then we have their final support card, which is RAUJIN, the BREAKBOLT Star, another fusion monster to their lineup, and this one is made specifically to kill Xyz and Link monsters, and it does its job very well, I might add. So yeah, it's a decent tech choice for warrior decks who can afford to make them. So yeah. Then we have another archetype which received only 1 card worth of support, and that is the MOKEY archetype, making its debut in this series with Stray MOKEY, which is an objectively better retrain of the original. It comes with the name treatment effect to make the support cards work around him, and you basically can't afford not to run him, because the archetype is very small and very insignificant even before this thing came out. So yeah, have fun with it, I guess. Next up we have a whole boatload of Blackwing support cards, starting with, of course, Blackwing VATA the Knave. And just to give it a bit of a heads up, all of the new Blackwing support cards are mostly made to support Blackwing Dragon, along with the new retrain that it got. And so is the case with VATA the Knave here. So because he can very easily fetch the Blackwing Dragon Synchro monsters directly from the extra deck by sending himself along with some Blackwings from the deck directly in order to get him on the field. And of course we also get the locked out into special summoning dark monsters, which is not too big of a deal, but hey, Vata the Knave is actually a very good tuner outside of Blackwing Dragon shenanigans, due to him being able to special summon himself just like Bora the Spear and Gale the Whirlwind. So yeah. Chinook the Snowstrike also continues this tradition, as we get a first glimpse of supporting the actual effect of Blackwing Dragon with the whole losing 700 attack and basically triggering and taking burn damage ourselves. So yeah, this is the first card built around that little gimmick, and so is Shamal the Sandstorm. This one is more oriented on the burn damage aspect rather than Chinook, which only deducted attack point value. So yeah, Shamal is more has more use in the OG Blackwing playstyle, so some hardcore Blackwing purists who are not interested in Blackwing Dragon might be more interested in Shamal this time around. And it also sets another support card freshly made for the for Blackwing Dragon support wave onto the field, and that card also works on the OG Blackwing, so yeah, Shamal is very good to consider. Then we have Suthuri the Illusory Spark, which is a good token spawner, and it also searches cards which mention Blackwing Dragon, so of course it also keeps up with the theme of the recent Blackwing support by supporting the Blackwing Dragon playstyle. And then the last monster we have for the Blackwings for now is Zonda the Timely Knight. And this one is also another, this one is actually a very fantastic bouncer, and also uses and also implores the damage taking aspect, which is a holdover for the original Blackwing Dragon. So yeah, it's a very good card, if you manage to summon it, because it is a level 6 after all, and yeah, summoning those can be a bit tricky at points, so yeah. Then we have our first Synchro monster, which is the level 6 Blackwing Boreas the Evil Wind, which is the Archetypal's Goyo Guardian, which is not too relevant nowadays, but being able to steal the opponent's monsters is always nice, whether it be that being before or after the battle phase, so yeah, I guess it's good. And then the last monster that we have for today is the retrained Blackwing Assault Dragon. This one is a level 10, unlike the original, which was level 8. And yeah, this card also has black feather counters, black feather counter placing gimmicks. However, this one's effect is miles better than the original, as he basically destroys all cards on the field upon removing four or more black feather counters. And not to mention, you can special summon him real easy by tributing the original, so yeah, you have a more incentive to run the original as well. So yeah, this is one of the better boss monsters of the Blackwing archetype, and I highly recommend trying him out at least. Then we have Black Feather Whirlwind, which is a card mentioned in Shamal's effect text. And yeah, this one is kind of like the OG continuous spell, the Black Whirlwind, but it also works on Black Winged Dragons as well. Sadly, none of this support actually applies to Black Feather Dragon Dark Rage, which is the manga version of Black Winged Dragon. But yeah, that's kind of what happens when you don't pay attention when renaming the card and bringing it from the manga, so yeah. Anyway, Black Feather Whirlwind is a decent card, and I would definitely consider picking it if you are running Shamal, which is a good card on its own. And that was their only spell. Moving on to the traps, we have Blackwing Twin Shadow, which again continues the whole Blackwing Dragon support gimmick. But this one also has utility, as you can activate it straight from the hand if you control 2 or more Blackwing monsters, and you also get some other nifty utilities based around swarming. So yeah, this is another card to consider, but I would not consider maxing out on it, especially if you're not playing the Blackwing Dragon variant. Then we have Black Shadow Squall, which is an archetypal Omni-Negate, well, only for spell and trap cards, so it's not exactly an Omni-Negate, but it does require you to control a Black Feather counter on the field. So yeah, it might not always be viable, and there are other generic Omni-Negates should you happen to not really appreciate the Blackwing Dragon playstyle, so yeah. And that was it for Blackwings, and we're already more than halfway done with this archetype analysis. This one's going by pretty fast. Archetype rematch, sorry, but anyway. Here we have the one single solitary support card for the Performapal archetype, which is Performapal Odd-Eye Seer, level 6 dark spellcaster with 100 attack and 1800 defense, which is your standard run-of-the-mill Odd Eyes and Performapal Searcher, and it does its job reasonably well, so it's a decent card to consider as well. So yeah, good card. Then we have Ian Shuffle, which is the start of the Elemental Hero support wave, which only consists of 2 cards again. And Ian Shuffle is purely fantastic because we finally have another very consistent way of getting Neos on the field, other than, of course, the Neospace Connector, which eats up your normal summon. But so does this to an extent. You can always find other ways to bring Neospace into the field or other elemental heroes in order to get Neos are out and ready onto the field for your contact fusions. So yeah, the only problem I have with it is that it's not too searchable by the archetype, and that could lead to some problems, but hey, I think running 2 or 3 of these doesn't hurt, right? Anyway, Battle of Sleeping Spirits is a very gimmicky battle-oriented quick play spells, and specifically made for Neos, which doesn't hit the field too often. I mean, this is not going to hit the field too often because you generally don't plan to engage in battle with the OG Neos all that much. So yeah, I would skip out on this one if I were you. Then we have the single solitary support card for the Charmer archetype, and that is Ausa the Earth Channeler, who has the exact same effect as the Wind Channeler, but only for Earth monsters, so I will skip it promptly here. And now we move on to the Amazoness support wave, starting with Amazoness Warrior Chief, who exists to basically, it's a decent extender, and it allows you to set up their back row, and also polymerization if you're playing the fusions, which you really should because their fusions are really good. Not to mention you can get a lot more mileage from Amazoness Onslaught due to the existence of this thing and the existence of Amazoness Extra Savage, which is their archetypal link monster. Points bottom left and bottom right, requires any 2 effect monsters, so it's surprisingly generic for this archetype. And yeah, this is the prime reason why Amazoness Onslaught will probably be one of their basically jump up to more playable territory, because of how this card and the previous card make it more accessible than ever. They also received 2 other new continuous traps. The first one being Amazoness Hall, which is also a decent setup tool. It's an archetypal tanky as well, so definitely consider maining this one at 1 or 2 copies, depending on how you feel, as well as Amazoness Hot Spring, which basically has decent protection against battle damage, since these gals are most likely going to be battling all the time, so you can basically save your life points if you happen to be going against another heavily battle focused deck. So yeah, this is another good card to consider. And that would be the wrap up for the Amazoness archetype. Now we move on to Morphtronics, who also received a fair chunk of support, first of which being Morphtronic Telephone, who I have to give I have to give him real shoutouts for literally having this thing named as the Croatian word for a phone. So yeah, a non-mobile phone. So yeah, kudos there. It's another cell phone-like card, which basically serves to special summon monsters directly from the deck. This also replenishes life points for some reason. And anyway, so it's also a graveyard setup if you choose to play it like that, because its defense position is it serves to set up the graveyard while the attack position sets up the field. So yeah, Morphtronics modality strikes again, I guess. Then we have Gadget Gamer, which is really not worth looking at any further because its main point of support is Gadget Hauler, and we all know how amazing that thing is. And then we have Morphtronic SCANNEN, which is our first level 5 or higher Morphtronic monsters, meaning Junk Box doesn't work on him. But what you get for that is a monster that can easily special summon himself, and not to mention it can basically search both the back row and the monster lineup upon its special summon. So yeah, SCANNEN is a definite keeper, but I wouldn't advise maxing out on him because Junk Box cannot revive him. So yeah, it's a bit of a tricky situation there. And then we have our first Synchro monster, which is MORPHTRONIC Earphone, a level 4 with 1200 attack and 1800 defense, and I have to give them props for making the guys, making them resemble Rua and Ruka from the show. So that's really amazing how they made them resemble them. So yeah, anyway, this is a significant boost to the MORPHTRONIC OTK lineup, because making any monster, regardless of whether it's a MORPHTRONIC or not, you can making them attack twice, basically turning them into Hayabusa Knight, is supremely brutal, and it actually works very well with their new boss monster, that being Power Tool Braver Dragon. This one being a level 9 instead of a level 7 unlike the original. And when he's special summoned, you get to equip 3 spell cards with different names from your deck or graveyard to discard, making the deck's power output reach near maximum in just a matter of seconds. But sadly, he loses that nifty protection effect that the original Power Tool had. But thankfully, with the release of one new archetypal equip, makes that almost trivial, I would imagine. But again, we have a plethora of other generic equips which can fulfill the protection quota, unless if you're feeling a bit scared of this thing going away. So yeah. Then we have the spell cards of the archetype, first of which being MORPHTRONIC Convert unit, which is a decent and interesting and quirky field presence generator. So yeah, running at least 2 of these is actually quite recommended. Then we have Life Extreme, which is the equip spell I mentioned will be used on Power Tool Braver Dragon, and not to mention it also gives you an incentive to run Lifestream Dragon should your luck happen to go sour. So yeah, putting a high level tuner and a decent body on the field always is a very great thing to do. So yeah, definitely run 2 or 3 of these in your MORPHTRONICs, focusing on Braver Dragon or even the original Power Tool Dragon. However, the last spell card is not exactly worth writing home about. Gadget Box, who is always treated as a MORPHTRONIC card, and yeah, this was done to tie it into the archetype some more, because in the anime this was a generic card, not related to MORPHTRONICs in the slightest, and it's a decent token spawner, but the fact that it locks you out of the extra deck makes it supremely annoying and not worth running. So yeah, you're better off skipping this. And their last card is MORPHTRONIC Impact Return. And yeah, it's a subpar back row removal card. You're better off running Harpy's Feather Duster or Lightning Storm if you want back row removal. So yeah, or Twin Twisters, whatever is better for you, because I honestly don't see this being better than any of those cards. So yeah. Anyway, now we move on to the final archetype which received new support, those being Crystal Beasts. Crystal Beasts, first of all, to start off, they got their entire advanced Crystal Beast lineup printed, which are all objectively upgrades over the originals, however at the cost that you have to also now run the gimmicky Advanced Darkness field spell, which is not that terrible, but it pales in comparisons to Ancient City Rainbow Ruins. So yeah, Pegasus is essentially another copy of Pegasus, and Carbuncle is freaking fantastic even with the hard once per turn limitation, and all of those are okay, better than the originals for sure. But yeah, that's about as far as it goes for this monster lineup. Now we move on to their 2 spells and 3 traps. First spell being Crystal Protection, which is a very nice way to set up your spell and trap zone, and it also spawns tokens, which is also always very appreciated, so definitely run a couple of these. And then Awakening of the Crystal Lord is also a very nifty card to consider, not only because it's consistency boosting and setup, but it also is another great example of Konami of America's wonderful localization coming to fruition. So yeah, that was it for the spells. Now we move on to the traps, which are below average most of the time. Crystal Grace, which is essentially it can be a very quick and nifty monster swarming tool if you happen to be short on monsters at this point in time, but the other benefits of the cards are not worth bragging about. So yeah, I would only run this one if you feel like it. So yeah. Crystal Miracle is their negation for spell and traps, and as well, and also it allows you to basically cycle around your monster-based Crystal Beast and spell-based Crystal Beast. So yeah, it's if you really feel like it, go ahead and run it, but I would honestly run any other Omni Negate or spell and trap negation over this. And then the last card, Crystal Brilliance, gives emphasis to those who are looking to make Crystal Beasts outside of Rainbow Dragon decks, who are planning to make the Crystal Beast, the lower level Crystal Beasts, with their measly attack values into pure beat sticks, who are essentially being playing a deck without the extra deck for some reason. If you can, this is essentially the Crystal Beast variant of the Morphtronic FTK or OTK variant, so if I can put it in simpler terms there. So if you feel like playing a beatdown focused low level Crystal Beast playstyle, then this is the card that you definitely must have in your lineup. So anyway, we are done with Archetype Rematch Volume 11. Yeah, this was way shorter than I initially planned it would be. So yeah, definitely this was definitely one of the more unique support waves, and I wanted to get it out of the way before I go on vacation on Monday. And yeah, since I had time, I decided to record it. Volume 12 is already being collected. I think I have like 7 cards in the Volume 12 folder already. So yeah, I don't know when Volume 12 is gonna drop. It's probably gonna be a long while as well. But yeah, now my only goal before I leave for vacation is to finish the Catherine full body Let's Play in time. I think I only need 2 episodes, potentially 3 episodes tops, minimum 2 episodes to finish the Let's Play in total. So I gotta get to that. So anyway, thank you all so much for watching. Stay tuned for more videos and updates. Comment, like, and subscribe. Be sure to check out my Patreon when you got the time. Maybe drop a few donations if you feel like it. And as usual, I'll upload the next vid whenever I can. So see you all and have a good day. Peace.